I've been Margaret, though everyone just called me M. For 28 years at Harrington and Associates, the kind of executive assistant who knew where the bodies were buried, because I dug half the holes myself. I started in 1996 as a 22-year-old temp answering phones for a regional construction firm that no one had ever heard of. By the time the dot-com bubble was popping, we'd swallowed 2 competitors, gone public, and rebranded into one of the largest privately held engineering and infrastructure companies on the East Coast. I was there for every merger, every hostile takeover, every time the old man, Mr. Charles Harrington himself, screamed that he'd rather burn the building down than sell to those vultures from Chicago. I was the one who kept the lights on when the banks froze our credit line in 2009. I was the one who knew which judge liked McCollin 18 and which SEC investigator had a gambling problem. I knew the alarm codes, the offshore account numbers, the real ones, not the ones the CFO showed the auditors, the name of the mistress in Prague, and exactly how many board members were skimming from the pension fund. I wasn't just the gatekeeper. I was the entire damn fortress. My desk sat right outside the C-suite on the 42nd floor, a mahogany monstrosity that had survived 3 office renovations because I threatened to quit if they touched it. On it sat the same green banker's lamp I'd had since 1998, a Rolodex most people thought was decorative but still had numbers that could make a Saudi prince pick up on the first ring, and a framed photo of Mr. Charles and me at the company Christmas party in 2001, him drunk on champagne, arms slung around me, both of us laughing because we just screwed over a competitor so beautifully the stock jumped 12% the next morning. Then Charles retired to his vineyard in Napa. The board brought in the consultants, and the consultants brought in Derek Whitford, 34 years old, Wharton MBA, hair that cost more to maintain than my first car, and a smile that looked like had been focus grouped by marketing. Derek's entire personality was a LinkedIn post come to life, said things like, low-hanging fruit and runway, and circle back, without a hint of irony. His first week he walked past my desk, did a double take at my perfectly organized chaos, and said, "Wah, Margaret, this is very analog. We're gonna get you into the 21st century." I smiled the way you smile at a toddler who's just told you he's going to fly to the moon. Had no idea the 21st century was built on my analog ass. 3 months later, Derek called me into his office. Charles's old office, the one with the original Eames chair I'd sourced from a collector in Palm Springs, after the first one got ruined in a champagne incident involving a Russian oligarch. Derek was sitting behind the desk light playing CEO in his dad's suit. He didn't ask me to sit. Red flag number 1. Margaret, he began, spinning a Montblanc pen between his fingers like he'd practiced in a mirror. You've been here a long time. That's impressive. Really. But we're in a cost optimization phase. The board wants us lean, modern. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside was an org chart in red and a new box underneath his called Administrative Support Team Offshore. The salary line read 42,000. I made 104,000 plus bonus, had since 2019. I didn't touch the folder. You're telling me, I said slowly, that you're replacing me with a team in the Philippines for less than my annual shoe budget. Derek laughed. Actually laughed, like I'd told a joke. Come on, Margaret, it's not personal, you're expensive. And honestly, a little territorial. We need fresh energy, someone who isn't married to outdated processes. I leaned forward just enough that he instinctively rolled his chair back an inch. Derek, I said, voice soft the way a scalpel is soft, do you know why Charles kept me for 28 years? Because I'm not an assistant. I'm the institutional memory. I'm the reason the EP didn't shut down the Port of Baltimore project in 2014. I'm the reason we still have the defense contract that pays for this glass tower. You fire me, not saving money, you're performing your own lobotomy. He waved a hand like he was swatting a fly. That's dramatic. We'll document everything. Knowledge transfer. 2 weeks should be plenty. 2 weeks. 28 years of muscle memory, blackmail-grade intel, and relationships that could move mountains, reduced to a PowerPoint deck in a shared drive folder. I smiled the smile that had made grown men cry. Of course, Derek. Whatever you need. That was Monday. By Wednesday, I'd already started the burn. First, I stopped answering the bat phone, the direct red line from the Secretary of Transportation that only 3 people in the company knew existed. Let it ring. Second, I forgot to remind Derek that the quarterly board deck was due Friday, and that Charles's widow still expected her handwritten thank You note for the flowers I sent every year on their anniversary. Third, I left my Rolodex exactly where it was. Not my job to digitize 28 years of favors owed. Friday afternoon, Derek cornered me at the elevator. His hair was slightly less perfect. Margaret, the board deck. Where is it? Oh, I said, blinking innocently. Didn't anyone send you the old template? It's in the S drive. Folder named DO, not STUF. Password is Charles's dog's name plus the year we went public. You'll figure it out. He figured out about 30 seconds before the board walked in and realized the financials were from Q3 2018. Monday of week 2 they brought in Ashley. 24, fresh from some online certificate program, nails like talons, voice like she was reading from a TikTok script. Derek introduced her at the all hands as our new executive coordinator. Young, hungry, and ready to modernize. She spent the first day taking selfies in the executive bathroom and asking if we had oat milk cold brew on tap. I trained her exactly as requested. I showed her the coffee machine date that not which K-cup the CFO liked, or that the machine would explode if you didn't descale it every 90 days. I gave her the Outlook calendar but not the color coding system that had taken me 15 years to perfect, or the fact that the Secretary of Defense was listed as Mom for deniability. I handed over the master contact list, exported from my Rolodex the night before with every critical number mysteriously corrupted by one digit. On my last day, I wore the same navy suit I'd worn to Charles's retirement party. Derek was too busy to notice me leave. Ashley was on her phone in my chair, feet on my desk scrolling Instagram. I paused at the door. One last thing, I said sweetly. The Japanese consortium call tomorrow at 6 a.m. They only speak to me. They're old school. If they don't hear my voice, they walk. That contract's worth $42 million over 5 years. Good luck. Derek looked up, finally pale. Wait, you're joking. I just smiled, pressed the elevator button, and walked out to the sound of Ashley asking if we had a ring light for Zoom calls. 3 weeks later, I was on a beach in Costa Rica sipping something with rum and zero regrets when my phone started blowing up. Not my work phone. I'd factory reset that thing and dropped it in the ocean on day 1. My personal phone. The one only 12 people on Earth have the number to. First call was from Mr. Charles himself, voice from laughing. You magnificent bitch. They're eating each other alive up there. Second call was from the CFO, practically crying. The Port of Baltimore project had been fined $8.7 million because someone's Ashley filed the environmental impact addendum 6 days late. The Japanese consortium walked, taking their $42 million and give it to our biggest competitor. The defense contract was under audit because the security clearance paperwork had been submitted with Comic Sans as the font. Stock was down 23%. Derek had been re-signed to a special project in the basement. Corporate speak for exiled. The board called me personally, offered me double my salary, a corner office, and a public apology from Derek on the company intranet if I'd come back for 90 days to fix it. I let them beg for 10 minutes. Then I said, "Gentlemen, you made your bed, now sleep in it. Preferably with the lights off, because I'm not there to pay the electric bill anymore." I hung up, ordered another drink, and raised a toast to 28 years of being indispensable. Some lessons you can't buy with an MBA. Some women you can't replace with an offshore team and a prayer. And some fires. Well, sometimes you just hand over the gasoline and walk away smiling. Because karma doesn't need a PowerPoint. She's got my Rolodex. Because karma doesn't need a PowerPoint. She's got my Rolodex. 6 weeks later I was back in the States, sitting in a quiet bar in Georgetown with a 25-year-old Macallan in front of me that cost more than Derek's monthly car lease. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number with a single video attachment. I almost didn't open it. I was trying to be retired, but curiosity is a bitch with my name on it. The video was security cam footage from the 42nd floor, timestamp 2017 AM 2 nights ago. It showed Derek, tie loosened, hair looking like he'd been pulling it out in chunks, screaming into a speakerphone while Ashley stood behind him crying mascara rivers down her cheeks. In the background you could see my old desk completely buried under Redwold folders, coffee cups, and what looked like the entire contents of a shredder bin someone had tried to stuff back together. The audio was crystal clear. I don't care if you have to fly to Tokyo yourself and suck his dick under the table. You get Tanaka on the phone and you get him to sign the fucking amendment, or we are all finished. Derek's voice cracked on the last word. Ashley was whimpering something about time zones and how she couldn't find the old contract drafts. Derek picked up my green banker's lamp. My lamp. and hurled it across the room, shattered against the glass wall in a spectacular shower of green glass and sparks. I replayed that part 3 times and smiled so hard the bartender asked if I needed another. I finished the whiskey, paid the tab, and went home to bed. The next morning I had 37 missed calls and 1 voicemail from the chairman of the board himself, voice shaking like a leaf in November. Margaret, please, name your price. We will match it and add 50%. Just come back. 1 year. 6 months. Whatever you want. I didn't call back. I took my dog for a walk instead. 2 months after I left, the dominoes really started falling. The Japanese consortium didn't just walk away with the $42 million rail modernization contract. They sued us for breach and won summary judgment, when it turned out Ashley had sent them the wrong version of the contract. The one with the penalty clause highlighted in neon yellow, because she thought it looked important. That penalty clause triggered a $19.4 million payout, overnight. Then the defense contract imploded. The renewal package was due March 1st. Ashley scheduled the courier pickup for March 10th because she thought government stuff moved slower. The package never arrived. The DOD flagged us as non-responsive, suspended our clearance, and shifted the entire $87 million annual contract to Lockheed. Just like that, the Port of Baltimore thing got worse. The EPA fine was only the appetizer. Because the addendum was late, the union refused to let work resume until a new safety audit was completed. That audit discovered that someone, Ashley again, had deleted the daily inspection logs for the previous 90 days to clean up the shared drive. Turns out those logs were the only proof we had that the crane involved in the 2022 near-miss incident had repaired to spec. The insurer denied coverage. Crimped from the injured operator went from $4 million to $28 million the day that news broke. By the time summer rolled around, the company had burned $38 million in lost contracts, fines, legal fees, and emergency borrowing at punitive rates. The stock was trading at $9.42 a share. People were calling it the fastest 9-figure self-inflicted wound in American corporate history. And Derek became the fall guy. The board needed a sacrifice so they could tell the shareholders someone had been held accountable. They marched him out in handcuffs. Not literally, but close enough. Gave him a cardboard box and a security to the elevator while the entire floor watched in silence. Rumor is he cried in the lobby. I hope someone got that on video too. The best part, they still couldn't find anyone to replace me. They tried headhunters, offered $400K, $500K crickets. Word travels fast in this industry, and my network is a fucking mafia. Every qualified candidate knew exactly what had happened. Nobody wanted to walk into that radioactive crater. 7 months after I walked out, I got the call I'd been waiting for. Not from the chairman this time. From Charles Harrington himself, calling from his vineyard, voice thick with the kind of satisfaction most men only get from sex or revenge. And he was getting both. He said, they're done. The board just voted to take the company private again. Emergency recapitalization. They're wiping out the common shareholders to keep the lights on. My worthless stock is about to become very expensive again. And they want to give me operational control until the new structure closes. I told them there's only one condition. I waited, told them I'll come back the day you do. CEO. Equal voting shares. And Derek's head on a pike in the lobby if we feel like it. I laughed so hard I had to pull the car over. Charles, I said, you greedy old bastard. You just want to watch the world burn with me. Damn right I do. Say yes, Let's go finish what they started. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Thought about the mahogany desk. Thought about my green lamp in pieces. Thought about Ashley's talons on my keyboard and Derek's smug little face when he told me I was outdated. I'll be in the office Monday morning, I said. But I want the big office this time, the one with the balcony. And I want a new lamp, vintage, none of that LED bullshit. Don't, he said. Yeah. Bring the Rolodex. Monday at 8:03 a.m., I walked back into the building wearing the same navy suit from my last day. Only this time the skirts were tincha shorter and the heels were sharp enough to use as weapons. The lobby was half empty. Half the lights were off to save money. The security guard, Louise, been there since 2004, stood up straight and actually saluted. The elevator still knew my fingerprint. 42nd floor. Doors opened. The entire floor was silent. 3 single person stood up as I walked past. Not clapping. Not cheering. Just standing. Respect, fear, love. All 3 at once. My desk was exactly as I'd left it, minus the lamp. Someone had cleaned it, polished it, left a single red rose in a crystal vase and a note in Charles's handwriting, welcome home, you glorious witch. I sat down, opened the bottom drawer, Took out the spare Rolodex in a safety deposit box for exactly this moment. The real one. The one with the numbers that could start wars or end them. At 8:17 a.m., the first call came in from the Japanese consortium. He didn't even say hello. Margaret-san, he said in perfect English. I heard you are back. Please tell me this is true. I said. There was a long pause. Then the sound of a man exhaling 10 years of tension. In that case, he said, we would like to discuss returning to the table. Our previous offer is no longer valid. We are prepared to increase it by 30%, and we will pay the penalty clause lawsuit out of our own pocket if you personally oversee the project. I smiled the smile that built empires and burned them down just as beautifully. Tanaka-san, I said, you have yourself a deal. Send the new term sheet to my assistant. She'll be in touch. I hung up, leaned back in my chair, and looked out over the city that had tried to throw me away, and instead handed me the keys to everything. Some women don't get revenge. We get promoted, and sometimes the promotion comes with a body count measured in 9 figures and the sweet sound of grown men realizing they should have listened to the secretary when they had the chance. I still have that security footage of Derek throwing my lamp. I watch it when I need a good laugh. It never gets old. It never gets old. By Christmas, Harrington and Associates was no longer bleeding, it was hemorrhaging in reverse. Money poured back in faster than the accountants could count it. Tanaka's new deal closed at $58 million a year for 7 years, with a $22 million signing bonus that hit the company account the day I shook his hand in Tokyo. I flew commercial coach just to watch the junior associates lose their minds when I walked through Narita with nothing but a carry-on and the original 1998 Rolodex in my purse. They thought I was joking until I pulled it out in the conference room and started flipping to cards they'd never seen before. Tanaka actually bowed. Lockheed tried to block the DOD from letting us back in. I made one phone call to a retired 3-star general who still owed me for keeping his son out of Leavenworth in 2011. 48 hours later the suspension was lifted, the $87 million contract was reinstated with a 12% escalator, and Lockheed's program manager was suddenly pursuing opportunities outside the firm. I sent his replacement a fruit basket with a note that simply read, "Welcome to the food chain." The Port of Baltimore settlement got renegotiated down to $4.2 million the day I walked into the mediator's office wearing the same navy suit and the same thin smile. The plaintiff's attorney took one look at me, turned white, and asked for a recess. 10 minutes later he came back and accepted our original offer from 2 years ago. His client cried. I didn't. By March the stock had climbed back above 60. The emergency recapitalization turned Charles and me into the 2 largest individual shareholders overnight. The same board members who'd voted to fire me now kissed the ring every morning in the elevator. One of them, a private equity vulture, named Preston, who'd been Derek's biggest cheerleader, actually tried to get on his knees in the parking garage and beg forgiveness. I let him kneel for a full 30 seconds before I stepped over him like he was a puddle. Derek himself vanished for a while. LinkedIn said he was exploring advisory roles. Translation: unemployed and unemployable. Then one Tuesday in April I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line: I'm sorry. The message was 8 paragraphs of whimpering, blaming. He was living in his parents' basement in Connecticut. His wife had left him. Amex had canceled all his cards, been rejected from a senior manager position at Foot Locker because they went in a different direction. He ended with, "If there's anything I can do to make this right, name it. I'll do anything." I waited exactly 6 hours before replying with a single sentence. Send me a video of you burning your Wharton degree. 4K, no cuts. Then we'll talk. He sent it the next morning. I watched a 34-year-old man cry while feeding a 200 zalazan piece of paper into a backyard fire pit. I saved it to my desktop under the file name Therapy MP4. Ashley lasted exactly 11 more days after I came back. She showed up the first morning wearing a blazer 2 sizes too small and a smile that died the second she saw me behind the mahogany desk. I didn't say a word. I just opened the bottom drawer, took out a cardboard box with her name sharpied on it, and set it on the corner of the desk. Inside were the broken pieces of my green banker's lamp, carefully wrapped in the resignation letter she'd bragged about making me sign. She started crying before she even reached the elevator. I replaced her with a former Marine Master Sergeant named Rivera who could type 110 words a minute, intimidate a Navy SEAL with a single raised eyebrow, and still made a perfect cup of coffee. She called me ma'am exactly once. I told her to call me M or I'd fire her on the spot. We've been best friends ever since. Charles and I ran the company like a two-headed dragon for 18 months. We fired 32 vice presidents, promoted 17 admins who'd been invisible for decades, and turned the executive floor into a place where people spoke in full sentences again instead of startup buzzwords. We brought back real Christmas parties with open bars and no mandatory trust falls. We reinstated the pension plan Derek had tried to raid. We even brought back the ancient espresso machine from the 1999 merger because it scared the junior analysts, and that's good for their character. Then, on a random Wednesday in June, Charles walked into my office carrying glasses and a bottle of 1945 Macallan. He poured, we toasted. He slid a single piece of paper across the desk. It was an offer from a European infrastructure consortium. 8 billion cash for the entire company. Enough to make every loyal employee from the mailroom up a millionaire overnight. Enough for Charles to buy the vineyard next door and the one after that. Enough for me to never have to wear pantyhose again unless I wanted to. We signed the next day. The closing party was held in the old boardroom, the one with the mahogany table that had survived 3 CEOs and 1 attempted coup. Every person who'd ever been screwed over by a consultant or an MBA was invited. The ones who'd been loyal got checks with a lot of zeros. The ones who'd cheered when I was escorted out by security and handed a box of their personal items on the sidewalk. Preston tried to sneak in wearing a waiter's uniform. Rivera spotted him, zip-tied his wrists with the cord from a presentation remote, and had him thrown into the Lincolntown car that dropped him off at a bus station in Maryland with a one-way ticket to nowhere. At 11:47 p.m. Charles stood up on a chair, already half in the bag, and raised his glass. "To Margaret," he said, voice cracking with age and whiskey and something that sounded a lot like love. "The most dangerous woman I ever met, the only person I was ever scared to fire, and the best goddamn partner a bastard like me ever had." The room exploded. People were crying, laughing, hugging. Someone put "Sweet Caroline" on the sound system, and the entire 42nd floor sang at the top of their lungs while Manhattan glittered outside the windows like it was personally apologizing for ever doubting me. I let them cheer. I let them toast. I let them tell the story 100 times about the day the secretary came back and burned the kingdom down just to build a better one. Then I slipped out to the balcony, what was left of the 1945, and lit a cigarette I had no business smoking at my age. Rivera found me there at 2 a.m., the city quiet below us, the bottle empty between my feet. "You know they're writing a case study about this at Harvard, right?" she said. "They're calling it the costliest assistant in history." I laughed so hard I almost fell over the railing. "Let them," I said. "Let them teach it for the next 50 years. Let every smug little MBA read it the night before their first board meeting, and feel a cold hand on the back of their neck. Let them learn what my mother taught me when I was 6 years old." "What's that, Em?" I took one last drag, flicked the cigarette into the night, and watched it fall fours like a tiny burning middle finger to everyone who ever underestimated me. "There are 3 rules in this world, Rivera. Never piss off the woman who knows where the bodies are buried. 2. Never forget Rule 1. And 3. If you do forget, pray she's in a good mood when she comes back." I turned and looked at the party still raging behind the glass. At Charles doing the Macarena with a woman who used to be the cleaning lady, and was now worth $40 million. At grown men hugging and sobbing, because they finally got the bonus they'd earned a decade ago. At an entire company that had tried to throw me away, and instead crowned me their goddamn queen. I smiled the smile that started wars and ended them. Then I walked back inside, kicked off my heels, and danced until the sun came up over the Hudson. Because some of us don't need revenge, we just need the world to finally admit what it should have known all along. The secretary was always the most powerful person in the room. She was just waiting for you to be stewed enough to forget it. And when you did, well, that's when the real fun began.